Hey Dude,
The 90s called.
with Christine Taylor and David Lascher.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to our podcast, Hey Dude, the 90s Called. I am Christine Taylor.
I'm David Lascher. What's up, Christine?
Hi.
How are you?
Hi, David. You're in a new location, I see. Are you on
Yes.
vacation?
Yes, we are in Colorado with my family and just hiking and biking and getting healthy.
So cool. I
Yeah,
can't
it's
see
been
any
really-
mountains. I don't see anything in the background except for wow.
Yeah, it's so
Oh.
beautiful here.
That is
Um,
exactly the way I picture Colorado. I've only been there a couple of times, but that is gorgeous.
Yeah, in the summer, it's a lot of fun. And most people think of it as like skiing, but the summer is so fun here. Where
So
are you?
cool. I'm in Westchester, just holing up in Westchester, a little bit outside of the city.
Holding it
Enjoying
down.
some summertime, nice and green up here. I think our guest is in the waiting room. Do you want to give a little intro?
I cannot wait to talk to this guy from his first movie all the way through his current work. He's the kind of actor I feel like everyone feels like they know him. You know, he's like everybody's brother
Yes.
or friend or something.
So true.
All right, let's welcome Tim Daly.
Woohoo!
Tim Daly. Hi.
We know you.
How are you, everybody?
It's so good to see you. Tim, you and I only just met for the first time fairly recently
That's true.
through the beautiful Taya,
Taylor.
a longtime friend of mine, but we just met recently at a dinner, and I can't believe you're doing this podcast. That's so wonderful of you. Thank you.
Oh, you kidding? It's my distinct pleasure. And I'm so glad that Taya Patra has, connected us.
I know she's a delight, and I've already thrown out the fishing line to see when she would like to come on.
Oh, yeah. Good luck with that.
Oh, wait. She and Ben did Flirting with Disaster, right?
Yes, that's
Yes.
Taya has a lot to talk about in the 90s as well. But yes, I know she's a busy lady, but she did say yes, so I will hold her to it.
Oh, she did? Oh, gosh.
She did say yes.
You must be very important, you guys.
I think maybe the fact that you're doing this might have had something to do with it.
I don't know about that, but anyway.
Tim, we had your wings brother, Steven Weber, last week. He was amazing.
I'm so glad to hear that. And now the bar's been set very high for me.
The back-to-back.
The Wings Place. Well, I think he probably remembered a lot more about the 90s than I do.
No, but Steven grew up with artistic theater parents, and you did as well, right? That must have had an influence on you, I guess, right?
I mean, I guess so. I sometimes think that I became an actor not because it was I chose it, but it was some kind of congenital disease that was passed down. Two of my siblings didn't get it, but one of mine did.
Yep.
And we both became actors, much to our chagrin.
What about your parents? Your parents, I mean, half and half. They got two in the business and then two that went the other way.
The only thing I'll say about that is, and I've said this before in full disclosure in other interviews, but in my family, the theater especially was like the temple, right? The church, the holy chapel.
Right.
So if you were going to do theater especially, you better take it seriously. So in the third grade, when I did a play and all the other parents and grandparents was like, "Oh, honey, you're the best one. You're so cute." Blah, blah, blah. I was like, "All right, you upstage yourself in that first scene. And if you wait a moment before you cross to the right, you might get a laugh on the thing." I'll have notes. Notes. Like, I'm 3, in third grade, I just want love and I'm getting criticism.
Oh, sometimes the parents just can't help themselves, right?
Yeah, but he was born a professional because of them, right? I mean, you knew to take the work seriously.
Yeah, I did know that. What I didn't know is whether or not I had the personality to be a professional actor, because it's now not news to anyone that there's an inordinate amount of rejection that you have to endure in order to make your living in this trade. And, I know a lot of brilliant actors that just couldn't do it. they couldn't go out there and be punched in the face again and again and again and stand up again and say, please punch me in the face again.
more rejection.
Yeah, I remember I was doing a play in Santa Fe, New Mexico years ago, and this woman lived next door, and she told me this long story. We got to chatting about how she went to Minneapolis, and there was this job, and they loved her. She went back again, and she was moving and packing the house, and it was all a big happy thing, and her whole life was going to change, and she didn't get the job, and she said she was depressed for 6 months, and I was like, that's Tuesday for me. It's like, that's 3 times a week. My life is going to change and it's going to be this amazing thing. And then
it's over.
It's over.
It's over. It's pulled out right from under you.
Dream dies all the time.
Yep. We always had the joke in my family that any time I would book a non-refundable ticket, and this was at a time where plane tickets, it still costs a lot, but it was like I didn't have a lot of work coming in. So you'd buy the non-refundable plane ticket to go home to see the family. And then I would get a job that would probably not even cover the cost of the plane ticket, but I would take it anyway. And then I was in, I was out the plane ticket and then I was in the hole, but it didn't matter because it was always sort of, okay, just book a non-refundable flight somewhere and then you'll get a job. However good or bad.
It's absolutely book a fancy vacation, guaranteed to get a job.
Exactly.
Always. But you, I know we're going to talk about the 90s, but we have to start with Diner because I know I'm among millions of people who that movie meant so much to, and what a cast and it was your first film?
It was, yeah.
I can't think of many first films that could be in that caliber, but I mean, what was it like getting that, and what was the experience like?
Well, first of all, it's pretty much the only good movie I've ever made.
Oh,
that was my first one. Just a little. Oh well.
No.
Secondly, it was thrilling. Although I never in a million years imagined that I would work in film or television. I just thought I was going to be a theater kid and
theater guy.
Be a member of some regional theater someplace, which I actually was just shortly after I got Diner. So when Diner came out, I was doing regional theater in Providence, Rhode Island, much to the chagrin of my agents and managers, because I just couldn't imagine. I didn't understand it, and I'm still trying to figure out what it is.
What was the trajectory there? Had you been auditioning and pounding the pavement? How old were you?
I remember distinctly, we started filming the day after I turned 25.
Okay.
Wow.
And, but the trajectory was, I was, just going crazy in New York. I had a construction company. So that's how I fed myself. Mm-hmm. I was auditioning. I was putting together a rock and roll band. I was taking acting classes. I was taking singing classes. I slept like 3 hours a night. I was just going at it really hard. And my sister Tyne actually, and this is before she was, America's Tim Daly,
right?
Had a friend named Valerie Curtin. And Valerie was married to Barry Levinson. And Tyne said, "What's Barry doing?" He said, "Oh, he's getting him direct this movie about his childhood and life in Baltimore." And Tyne said, "Well, you should see my kid brother." And she said, "Oh, I'll tell Barry." So I got this call, and I went to see Ellen Chenoweth, who's an amazing actor, casting director.
Casting director, right?
Casting director. And she looked at me and said, "You're too young, and that's not going to work." She said, "But I'll tell you what. Go and read for Barry anyway." So I read for Barry, and I think he kind of loved me. And I was shocked. and I think Ellen was shocked too.
Did.
So I went back and I read again, and I went back and I read again. I went back to read again. And then I did a screen test. And then sort of at the last second, I got the job, and I was just flabbergasted. So I went down to Baltimore and hung out with a bunch of crazy guys for a couple months. And
I know. The dudes, like a cool group of dudes.
Seriously, aside from The Outsiders, that could be the greatest cast for, a beginning of a career or Barry's first film. I mean, every one of you went on to do amazing things. Were you aware that that there was something special going on? I mean, that cast was just phenomenal.
I think that everyone was aware, except maybe me. I was clueless, man. I just didn't know what was going on. I mean, I really didn't know what to do. Like, I didn't know. I hope your audience is more sophisticated than I was, but I didn't know that in movies you had to go and stand on a mark. Like that. Like, I was like, what is all this tape they're putting on the floor? Like,
right. He's a theater kid.
You stand so you're in focus. I was like, really? Oh, and I kept screwing it up. So I think that the other people who were a little more experienced than I was had a sense that this was going to be a phenomenal thing, and I was just terrified and trying to not get fired.
But you know what? The movie is very much like a play. You know, I don't remember the plot of Diner, but I remember the characters and the relationships. And Paul Reiser, asking Gutenberg, "Are you going to finish that?" Those little, it just seemed like, for a first movie for a theater guy, what a perfect first film for you.
Well, it was sort of, although I am not a great improviser. And I remember Kevin Bacon and I were like, we hated improvisation. And then we'd get into scenes with Reiser, and Reiser would just be like snapping off all these amazing lines. Right. Be terrified.
Yeah, don't try and keep up with the comedian.
Did you have on that film, was there an extensive rehearsal process? Because going from the theater where you just rehearse and rehearse and rehearse and rehearse, did it feel unnerving being on a film set where you just sort of step, or did you guys get a chance to sort of spend time together and work through it a little bit prior to shooting?
Well, as I recall, the rehearsal process was short, but at that time, Baltimore, Maryland was, I think the technical term is shithole. I mean, it was
just watch The Wire.
We were staying in this Holiday Inn, which was like the only game in town, across from the strip club, and there was one restaurant that we could eat at, so we were sort of forced to be together, and it got really funny because like Gutenberg and I would be having dinner, and we'd look over and we'd see like Mickey and Danny Stern having dinner or something. We'd send them these really frilly drinks, like send those guys a Pink Lady or a Velvet Hammer. And then after about a week, it was like, send them the chicken dinner. It's like they've already ordered food. Let's just send them the chicken dinner. Just go ahead. So it got really ridiculous. And then about halfway through the movie, they got this, I don't even know what to call it, a motorhome that they called the camaraderie camper. And so they stuffed all of us into this tiny motorhome. It wasn't like, don't think, luxurious, movie star stuff.
It's like a movie frat house.
Exactly. And so we were stuck in there with each other, and it was really funny. There was a lot of funny stuff. People got on each other's nerves. There was a lot of bad smells. But it was definitely something that I think enhanced the experience of the movie.
I have to say, it's that, two different experiences on sets that I've had in my life had a similar setup like that. And the first one was Seinfeld. I came on as a guest star. And interestingly, on that show, they would not give the guest stars a dressing room until your tape day or until the day, you started recording. And it was intentional because they wanted everyone just hanging out. They wanted everyone. And it was immensely more fun doing a job like that, because if I I would have lived in total terror. And the minute they said, okay, you're free for however many minutes, I would have escaped and isolated in my little dressing room, my box, and been afraid to talk to anybody. But it was a way of having everybody, even Jerry and the cast would hang and chat with everybody. And I just thought that is such a great way. And then the other job was when Ben did an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. Larry David also. It was, this was an early, I would say second or third season. Ben was doing a couple episodes and Larry said, is Christine available? Because it's a dinner party and I'd love to have her. So I just showed up and I had a 9-month-old and I was nursing at the time. And they had one trailer and that the whole cast shared. And I said, as long as I can bring my pump for the.
You nursed in a communal trailer.
Nursing yes, literally Larry David going, "Is Christine in there pumping? Is Christine in there?" But we all bonded like instantly, and we weren't on that show as regulars. We just kind of popped in and out, but it was so much fun to do it that way.
It's like theater life. Everyone's backstage together. Everyone's got the whole cast bonds, and I guess Barry Levinson figured that out because you guys had such rapport. It's really amazing.
I guess so. I got to say that I'm one of those that I've never really understood the whole trailer thing. Like,
I know.
People that like decorate their trailers and all this stuff. So I like acting. I don't like sitting in a motorhome. I want to go act.
Yes, but what about the in between? Did you not have actor insecurity? Like especially as a guest star, I was like, I'm afraid. I'm afraid of people.
Being a guest star on a television show is the most terrifying job there is because
right?
Absolutely.
You're entering this family and you walk in the door. Everybody's like, "Oh, that's the person playing, that part."
They all know each other. They all have a short form.
Me, please. I'm okay. Anyway.
No, you're so right. So
we haven't
true.
even made it to the 90s, by the way. We're still in the early 80s. I'm just saying.
Okay. I want to talk about your role on David Chase's show, Almost Grown, just because we want to get to the Sopranos after. But did you form a friendship with him or rapport with him that came back later in Sopranos?
So, yes. What happened was I got a call to go in and audition for an episode of a remake of Alfred Hitchcock Presents. They took these old Alfred Hitchcock scripts because he had a serialized TV show. And David had rewritten one, and he was getting his first chance to direct. So I went into audition for this thing, and I auditioned, and I walked out, and there was an assistant sitting at a desk outside, and I closed the door. I said, "Thanks a lot, Gus." I closed the door, and I turned to this assistant, and I said, "Well, that's one job I don't have to worry about getting." And I threw the script in the trash can. And I got home, and I had already gotten offered the job by the time. I was like, "What happened?" And I said to David, "I thought you hated me." And he said, "Yeah, it's just my face. That's just, I always look like someone killed my family. That's my relaxed face." So anyway, then he talked to me about Almost Grown, and we became friends. And I loved that show so much. It was just way ahead of its time. And it was, there was streamers and cables that do more adventurous stuff were not around then. And it was on CBS, and they were like, "What is going on with this show?" Anyway, then The Sopranos came on, and every year he would call me up and say, "You got to be on the show." I said, "Great, I'm ready." He goes, "I got this part for you." And it's like, no, forget it. It's not good enough. It's like, wait, what is it? No, never mind. So eventually he wrote a part for me, and it was really interesting because I remember the character's name was T.J. Dolan, and then David remembered that my real name is James Timothy Daly. So he remembered it wasn't Timothy James Daly. It was James Timothy. So he changed it. A new page came out to J.T. Dolan.
Stop.
And then he remembered that I grew up right next to this town in New Jersey called Mahwah. And he changed it from like Paramus to Mahwah. Like he had remembered all this stuff about me that he sort of put in there.
That's incredible.
Yeah. But that was a very special show. I mean, I feel like I was lucky enough to be on one of the best shows in the history of television so far.
Yeah, and to have the creator, who's arguably one of the greatest screenwriters alive, remembered you 10 years later to craft a part for you. I mean, that's really unbelievable.
Yeah, well, I would call him from time to time, and we were friends. And I used to say, "Dave, you know what's funny? I worked with you before you were a genius and after you were a genius."
I still have not seen The Sopranos. I know, David, you know this. This is the exact same reaction you had the last time I told you this. And Tim is giving me a very disapproving nod.
Do yourself a favor. And I'm not, forget about it.
I know. I think this summer, I think it's going to be the summer binge.
Also, The Wire. Have you seen The Wire?
I love The Wire.
let's go to Wings real quick because, I mean, what a beloved show. And how did that come about for you?
It was actually a crazy story, but because it was in the middle of my daughter being born, and I was racing. I was in San Francisco playing the guest psychopath on a show called with Gary Cole.
Night Call. Yep.
Anyway, I was racing home to see my newborn baby, and my agent said, just stop in LA and just audition for this thing. So I did. I went in and I auditioned, and they liked me and they flew me out, and I did a screen test, and then with Weber, who tormented me,
Had you known each other before?
No.
At all? You hadn't crossed paths at all?
No. And then, it was kind of like, pretty standard: audition, get part, and do part.
and then go for 200 episodes.
Well, there was
pretty typical.
There was that.
There's that.
And again, what a cast, man. Christine, Tony Shalhoub and Thomas Haden Church, Tim and Stephen, and what was the woman's name?
Crystal.
Yeah, Bernard.
Let's put out an APB right now for Crystal Bernard. Where is she? I mean, she was so good on that show. So good. And I don't know where she is. I would like to see her again in the public.
Yeah. But again, you end up with an all-star team ensemble.
Yeah. I mean, I can't for the life of me figure out how that happens, except to say that we got really lucky. And we had great chemistry, and we had way too much fun, and it kind of worked out. Let's face it, it's being on a hit TV show is like winning the lottery. It's just not something that happens every day.
Totally.
And I wish, I do wish that I had appreciated it just a little bit more at the time, because I think, it was funny because all of us were trained actors, and we were stage actors, and we wanted to do a lot of stuff. And the thing about a sitcom is that even if it's excellent, it does like this much of life. Like you never go out here. And so somebody was always hanging by their fingernails, off the cliff, and be like, no, Tony, you can't quit. You can't quit. You're so good. You're so funny. Weber, stop it. You're good. You're great. It's going to be okay. And and people would, someone was always like saying like, I'm a real actor. I can't do this sitcom crap. I got to do something, where I retch and cry. And so we kind of had a group ethos of talking to each other and bringing each other back into the fold.
Had you done much comedy before it? Because we said to Stephen, it looked like so many of the films and projects he was doing leading up to it were these dramatic, like Hamburger Hill, and we didn't even get to Single White Female, but these like sort of intense characters, and then and he's so funny, and you're so funny. And was comedy something that you loved doing, or was this just sort of something you fell into?
I mean, I'd done it in the theater.
Yeah.
And I'd done Diner, basically.
Right.
I'm trying to think if there's any other comedy I had done. I might have done a crappy TV movie here and there before Wings, but I don't really remember. But I love comedy. I really love it. Although I will say that I am different than most people, I think, because there's always that question when you're doing something that's really heavy, which, like, do you bring it home? Are you depressed all day? Does it infect your family life? And for me, it's like, if I get to scream and cry and retch and pound things, it's like I come home and I feel light as a feather. I got it all out in therapy.
Right.
But if I'm doing a comedy and there's a joke I know is really funny and I can't get the laugh, then it makes me insane.
Oh, yeah.
I know there's a laugh there. I had it on Tuesday. Why can't I have it on Wednesday?
And it's the fear of it getting cut, right? On a sitcom. Like if you know it's good and you're not landing it, it could be gone the next day.
Yeah, exactly. But it was really funny because we got much better on Wings the lazier and more jaded we got. It was really weird because the jokes were very funny, but they had a very short shelf life. So by the last 3 or 4 seasons, we were like barely rehearsing. Like if something worked, just in a read through, it was like, leave it. We're not even going to rehearse that again until we put it on camera, because we know that if we dig too deep, it's like digging a hole in a well in a bucket. It just all falls out the bottom. So we just gently touched it, and that made it funnier.
It's so true. Comedy is pass or fail. There's a laugh or there's not. And there's really no subjectivity to that. And also, the harder you try for it, the tighter you try and grip the joke, the less it works. So it all makes sense. But you guys did it so beautifully for 7 or 8 years. And Steven had said he also, I think, not only wishes he appreciated it more, but felt that Wings didn't get the respect of your peers that were in the same echelon at the time. I don't know whether it's awards or whatever, but looking back on it, people loved that show, and you guys were consistent for so many years.
I totally agree. I still can't quite figure it out. I mean, not to diss Seinfeld, but I remember when I think Wings had been consistently in the top 10 TV shows back when they'd measured it that way. And Seinfeld was like number 178, and we were number 7. And I would turn on our show, and I would see 14 advertisements for 178 and 0 for number 7. I was like, wait, what? Like, what are we not? Why aren't we cool? Like, we wanted to be cool, and we just weren't. People loved us. So that's good. At least there's that.
Yes. Yes. I mean, most people don't get that too. Like you said, it's like it's a lottery ticket, incredible.
But that's it. That's everything in the end. If you have an audience that loves you for 8 years, what else can you ask for?
Yeah. I feel like being an actor is a service industry. Like it's what I feel about anything doesn't really matter. It's about how the audience feels. Is the audience laughing? Is the audience moved? Is their mind changed about something? Are they asking new questions? That's my job, is to give them something.
People love that show so much. You have to look back on it as an amazing success. Was it Wings set in Cape Cod?
Wings was set in Nantucket.
Nantucket.
Oh, sorry. Okay. My bad.
From what I've heard, the douche factor on Nantucket has gotten extremely high.
I was going to say Nantucket is the island that Ann and Jerry had a house on Nantucket in, Ben's teen years. That's where he had his summer jobs, and he learned how to scuba dive in the, foggy Atlantic Ocean, and loved Nantucket. And it's so packed now. We've gotten there a few times. They sold the family house, but there's still, Ann and Jerry are buried there. So we do try to go once a year, or as often as we can get, because it was their real true love. Like, they just loved Nantucket, and I love it. But when you said that, it's like I'm having the images of the people with the whale belts and the pink sweaters over the shoulder with the loafers and the thing, and it's packed. It's packed, and it's expensive. It's not the Nantucket in the 70s that Ben remembers, but it's still it's charming.
It is. I mean, it's a beautiful place. It's just it seems to me that the same D-bags find all the good places, and then
I was going to say they end up everywhere, right? The Hamptons, Martha's Vineyard, wherever.
Right. You have to go
here in Colorado. They're everywhere.
They're everywhere. Who are we kidding? They're everywhere, guys. And Tim, so was this the first time you and Tyne worked together? I mean, because this was America's Tyne Daly by this point, yes?
Right. Was that the first time? I'm trying to think. We've worked together a few times because I did a thing on judging Amy when she was doing that.
Okay.
Listen, I remember the things happen. I can't put them on a timeline. Like you say, the 90s, I have no idea what happened.
Yeah, that's a blur. It's
was that 3 weeks ago? Was that last year? I don't know.
Right. 30 years, 3 weeks, it's all the same.
The same
it's
way.
The past. It's the past. But do you love working with your sister?
I do. And my favorite thing I got to do with my sister is a play that we did a few years ago called Downstairs, that was written for us by a fantastic writer named Teresa Rebeck. And that was an opportunity to really do some deep digging. And we played brother and sister, and I just love this play. It was a part that was extremely different for me, or at least for the people who haven't seen me in the theater. And we got to really bond over it. So that was great.
Oh, that's so cool. So is theater still a regular part of your life? Do you try to get into a show when you can or when it works?
I'm rehearsing the play right now.
Stop.
Yeah. That I'm doing at this little theater in Vermont called the Dorset Theater Festival. And I'm sitting in this cottage that, full disclosure, I have a farm I've had for 30 years that's about half an hour away. So
that sounds good.
That's where I rest my weary head. It's one of the most beautiful places on the planet. But I love working here because it's a lovely audience. And I've done 2 world premieres here, which is really cool. One of them went to New York. This one may or may not. We'll see. But it's a great place to just work out, and it's not a long commitment. But I have tried to kick my theater habit. Can't do it.
You can't do it. It's in the blood. It's there.
And spending the summer in Vermont, not so bad.
Well, as long as you're not flooded, as long as you're not underwater, it's awesome. I don't know if you've been reading the news, but there's been a lot of flooding.
How did you guys do up there?
This particular area did fine, but other people weren't so lucky. Anyway, we're okay. But theater is like, people always ask me, which do you like better, film, television, theater? And I've always been reluctant to say which, because I sort of feel like it's all the same thing, essentially. Stand up and tell the truth and see how people react to it. But there is something about being in a theater, and this is cliche. You're in a dark room with a bunch of strangers, and there is an energy to it that you cannot find in any other medium. And there's a danger to it because things can go wrong. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that energy is terrible, and sometimes it's electric in how wonderful it is. So I like that feeling of sort of hanging off the hairy edge and seeing what's going to happen.
I just love it. I mean, when I started out doing theater as a kid and community theater in my high school years, and did a little theater in LA, in my 20s. But when we moved back to New York, we see everything, like everything. And like you said, and not everything is great, but there's something to being in that room when the lights go down and it's so raw. And anything can happen.
I guess you missed the play that Tyne and I did.
I didn't see it. I know.
I see everything.
I did. Well, when I say everything, when did you guys do that play? Because I'm really bummed we missed that.
It was, it was actually during the last season of Madam Secretary. I was doing Madam Secretary and this play.
Oh my gosh.
I was so exhausted, but it was worth it. So probably about 4 or 5 years ago.
I'm so sorry we missed that, because that does sound incredible. And we will see you in something soon, because you're not. Beautifully. Careful what you wish for. We'll be knocking on your door. House guests.
Tim, we've got some people here. They say they know you. Tell us about Madam Secretary, because that had a long run as well, and really amazing show.
And Private Practice, like you've had a lot of long running shows.
Yeah, I've had 3 pretty good slices of the pie, more than my share.
3 good lottery tickets.
Yeah, and Madam Secretary. The thing about Madam Secretary is, number one, I met Taya, and that's like the most important thing. Yeah. But I will say, and I hope that some people on the crew of that show hear this, it was the best group of people I've ever worked with. I mean, wow. I would have dinner with any person on that crew. They were smart and compassionate and funny, and sometimes like so smart that it was mind blowing. Like, you're a dolly grip? Like, how do you, like, what? You sure you're not a PhD scientist? I mean, it was, but it was, as cliche as it sounds, it really was like a family, and it was not dysfunctional. It was a good family.
That's so awesome. Yeah. I remember I did an episode of Elementary, which was like in the stage is next
Down
to you
the hall,
guys.
yeah.
Yes, exactly. And I remember thinking, like, should I go over and find Taya? Like, I hadn't seen Taya in years, but I remember thinking, I'm not a stalker person, but I thought of you guys.
We had an amazing time. And, it's kind of weird because, I mean, I think we now have the longest set romance in history because it's lasted way beyond the set. We're
those showmances, right?
Yeah, actually better off the set than we were on. Everybody was rolling their eyes and thinking, "Oh, this will never last. This is going to be." Never was.
Oh, that's so cool. That is so cool. Our son just did a play in high school, and he started telling the tales of all of the hookups.
Oh,
and I said, it's the classic showmance, the showmances, and most of them won't last. It was, but he as sort of like a newbie was witnessing it with the older kids and was sort of like, oh, can you believe? And guess who ended up? Could you have ever imagined? That's so fun.
Tim, are any of your kids interested in entertainment?
Yeah, my son is an actor. He's a really wonderful actor. His name is Sam Daly. And we actually did a really ridiculous and stupid web series together that we very cleverly called The Daily Show, spelled D-A-L-Y. Right. And we had an inordinate amount of fun. We actually, we put out one just before the writer's strike that was about the writer's strike that I think got a lot of play because a lot of the writers really appreciated it.
We have to check that out.
Yeah, you should check it out. It's fun.
Is it a YouTube thing or just a
YouTube thing?
Got
it. Daily Show TV, I think it's called.
And how is working with your son? Just so fun? Did you love it? Were you like your parents?
Not as much.
Right.
But I love working with my son. I would love. I've developed a movie to do with him that we can't get financed because who can get a movie financed?
Right.
If you're not, but I'm dying to work with him again because he's really good and he has that thing that I love about comedy, comedians. And I'm not sure that I think it's a little out of style right now, but I love people who, when they do comedy, they don't wink at you. They just have this kind of innocent belief in whatever it is, no matter how ridiculous it is. And Sam has that. He's all in. And if you see The Daily Show, you see some of the ridiculous scenarios we cooked up. And Sam doesn't, he doesn't try too hard to put spin on the ball. He just plays it for real, and it's hilarious.
Oh,
did he write that? Did he write? Who wrote the episode?
No, well, it was technically written by our friend Ben Shelton, and also directed by him. But we'd improvised so much that it's hard to really tell who wrote what. But he sort of made a form, and then we worked within that.
So do you feel like you got to be a better improviser since Diner, or did Diner teach you? Did Diner teach you?
Diner didn't teach me so much. I got to be a better improviser. I got to be better. It still makes me nervous.
Same.
But I think, Diner probably intimidated me because improvising with comedians, if you're not a comedian, is not good for your mental or physical or spiritual health. It just crush your soul so fast because they're so freaking funny and so quick.
It's like playing tennis with Roger Federer.
Right. Let's crawl into a hole. I tried.
I'm not good enough.
Exactly. But I remember one of the first things I improvised was on David Chase's show, actually. And I can't remember how this came about, but I played this character who was passionate about rock and roll music. And it was an amazing part for me because I got to play 3 different ages. I got to play 18, 25, and 40. So it was all hair and makeup and time periods and all this stuff. And in the 18-year-old period, I don't know, I was writing an article for the student newspaper or something. And the thing that I improvised, I was talking to someone and I said, so are they really the Rolling Stones or is it all just an act? And David thought that was the funniest thing. It just slayed him. I don't know why. I don't know where it came from in my mind, but that was my first good improvisational line.
Oh God, it feels good when you get the person who created it and wrote it to laugh, to think like, oh, I didn't think of that.
He laughed so hard. He created a part for Tim. I just got to go back to that. Christine, I know you haven't seen the show, but Tim, you played a screenwriter who had addictions and gambling and many vices, and you get entwined with these mobsters, and your character is so bold about it. Like, you think you're going to charm your way out with these guys. And we talked about being a guest star and walking into a set, but you walk into, the greatest show on earth. I mean, can you tell us a little about what it was like entering that world?
Well, it was interesting because the cast was obviously brilliant, but you couldn't really tell. Well, I worked mostly with Michael Imperioli. Yeah. And, Michael talks like this, is a New York guy, blah, blah, blah. But like really erudite. He's into design and art. He's a really well-educated, guy. And he's playing this mobster. And then you have other guys who are they're like mobsters. They're like,
they're like real mobsters.
So you couldn't really tell which one of these guys is a mobster and which one is an actor.
Is an actor.
I love it.
But they were very sweet to me, and it's interesting. I got to know Jimmy Gandolfini a little bit, and it was interesting because he was such a sweet guy underneath, and he was very conflicted, I think, about that part because he was getting that thing that happens sometimes where he was getting all this recognition and adulation for playing a sadistic, homophobic, misogynistic, murdering, sociopath. And it was lovable. Go Tony. And he was like, no, you're supposed to hate this guy. This guy is not, fun. And then I saw him in this play called The Gods of Carnage a few years later after The Sopranos was open. And I went with my daughter and we went backstage. And I just thought I'd say, "Hey, Jimmy, how are you?" Because he was dark on the set of The Sopranos. And we went in and he was, it was like a different person. He was so light and happy and he just wanted to talk. And I thought we're bothering. I was like, "We're bothering you." He's like, no. I was like, an hour and 15 minutes later, I'm looking at my watch like, "Jimmy, get out of here." But it was just great to see him so effusive and relaxed. May he rest in peace. It's a big loss.
Yeah, that's the beauty of that show. When you can create a character that's a killer and all those things you said, and you still love him, that's great writing.
Yeah,
I think. But you were so good on that show.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, David is. I mean, he's brilliant. He's able to make things that are dark and complicated, also funny and simple at the same time. I don't know how he does it, but he does.
Yep. Christine, you got to start it.
I know. Well, I gather there's some murdering in the show. I know that. That's a joke.
Just a little.
We've been really wanting to do it, and it's that thing that when you're in, it feels overwhelming to start a show that you've heard so much about and know a lot about how it ended, all of those things. But I don't think it matters. It's just needing to. I did that with Game of Thrones. I put it off, and then when the last season was starting, I said, I'll try watching Game of Thrones. And I think I caught up before the dance. I binged it in a way that I devoured it. And I know how to binge. I know how to binge watch.
I was going to say, once you start The Sopranos, don't make any plans for the next 3 days.
Right. 3 days.
Should we watch another one? And I always love when your streaming device judges you and says, "Are you still watching?" Because it just assumes that you had fallen asleep, but you're just letting it play through for 5 hours.
Listen, this is off the subject, but can we just talk about machines that judge you? I have a toothbrush, an electric toothbrush. And if I brush my teeth for 2 minutes, I turn the toothbrush off and it smiles at me. Sometimes it has like little stars inside. And if I don't brush my teeth for 2 minutes, it looks at me like,
no, it doesn't.
It does, like not so good.
makes
I'm
My God.
I'm doing my
Seriously.
best.
Don't judge me. I did 1 minute and 48 seconds, so I missed 12 seconds. Don't bum
But
me
they
out.
speak to you like you're a child, right? Corporate America makes products like as if we're still 5 years old.
Right.
Tim, thank you so much for talking to us. This
Thanks.
was
Taking
awesome.
time out of rehearsal for going indoors.
Yeah, good luck with the play.
Thank you so much. It's great to see you both. And Christina, I hope we get to hang out in New York or someplace else sometime.
Yes, and we
come
might
up to
just find
Vermont.
you. Yes, we
Dorset
might
Theater
just.
Festival. This town in Vermont is, I mean, you could make old movies about Vermont here. It's just pristine and gorgeous. There's the Dorset Inn and a place called the Barrows House that are these lovely, anyway, come on up.
Oh, I love it. Just like I said, be careful what you wish for.
Okay. No, I'm ready. My mom's
We
ready.
will find
And
you.
Dressing room door. Someone's here, Tim.
And we expect an hour and 15 minutes
You
after
got
the
it.
show.
Like
Just like
James
James
Gandolfini.
Gandolfini.
Right. Great.
All right.
Oh,
Well,
thank you so much, my dear.
Well,
It was
thank
so
you,
great
Tim.
to see you.
David, enjoy your vacation.
All right. Thanks, man. Have a great summer.
Take care.
Bye.
What a cool guy, right?
He is so cool. And like I said, I really only just met him. But as you talked about, when we were, introducing him, that he's just somebody that you feel like you've known for so long because he's been in so many things. And he really downplayed his, resume. I mean, just sort of, he's just been doing this nonstop. We didn't even get into which I saw in the notes was that he was acting as a child. Also, he was in movies as like a 10-year-old. And yeah, I think, just a cool dude. And I love the people that start in the theater that they just can't.
Right. They stay true to the theater, and he keeps a farmhouse in Vermont,
yes.
that stuff keeps you grounded. And it's no wonder he's just so chill and obviously hasn't changed. There's no ego to him.
He's just so relaxed. I love it. Love it.
I want to watch that thing he did with his son, The Daily Show, on YouTube.
Yeah.
So interesting, because, as you know, when your child is interested in it, like, how can you help? Like, it's going out and just going and creating a show, putting it up on YouTube. I think that's so cool.
So fun. I was laughing thinking about when he said that they just got, I found that even my kid, we still have home videos and things that when my kids would want to make a movie and they would want to put Ben in it, and Ben's commitment just for fun. Like, this was not them making movies to put out to the world. It was just like a fun, like a couple kids having a play date, but that they would literally give Ben scripts and Ben would memorize it and come in. Oh my God. We would, everyone would dress up, and it's just like, there's something, that's why I said, do you love doing it? Cause there was something about, I think Ben remembers doing it with his family, and it's, when it's in the bloodline and you have kids that love to do it, doing it together. And him getting to do it with his sister, get to act with Tyne, because she's so wonderful too. He's such an interesting guy, and I really feel like this was like the second time we've had a guest where most of what you guys talked about was how The Sopranos is the best show of all time. So that's like number 2, and I feel like it's time. It's time. I'm gonna just do it, and I'm not resisting it. It's just a little bit overwhelming thinking of what I'm going into, but I am ready. I'm ready.
I promise you will not regret it. You will thank everybody that pushed you towards it.
You'll feel jealous, right? Because people who haven't,
everyone's like,
I'm so jealous. You're just starting it. Yes.
I could erase my memory and rewatch all of them.
I'll update you as we dig in. But this was great, and enjoy your time in the mountains. Get out there, get on a hike right now.
Awesome. And enjoy your summer. And I think we'll have a great guest next week.
Yeah, we're still recording. It's summer, but we're still recording. We've got I think I will be in a different location next week, TBD. But I will have a laptop. I will be logging in.
That's honestly, that's all you need. A laptop and a headphone. That's it.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for listening, everyone.
We'll be back next week.
All right.
Bye.
Have a great week. Bye, Christine.
Thanks for listening. Make sure to subscribe and give us 5 stars.
And please follow us on Instagram at Hey Dude, the 90s Called. See you next time.